Hello everyone, this is an explanatory video for the proper use of the tool, part of the framework of the Alter Eco Plus project. I would start with a brief space of general premises and recommendations readable through the acronym DATA. D stands for data collection, emphasizing its importance and data management in general. A leads to the word area, inviting the identification of problems, related systems and subsystems, data availability, actors in the pilot area of interest. The T represents the tool, recommending a familiarity with it by viewing it and understanding its dynamics of use. The last A indicates advisory, as the purpose of the tool in providing scenarios that can be turned into recommendations and guidelines. Therefore, results should not be interpreted as right or wrong realities. Necessary at a preliminary level is profiling, here required for three profiles: hotel tourists, ex-hotel tourists, and day visitors. A second key element is the administration of visitor and stakeholder surveys. From these, it is necessary to be able to trace profiled responses. Administration to at least one category is sufficient, although both are recommended for the sake of qualitative results. Some basic data and elements for the tool to work properly are as follows. Daily expenditure, this is an information needed for each user profile that can derive from the surveys to administer or tourism reports, studies, and research. Tourism flows, so an estimation of tourists and visitors who visited the destination. Data can be derived from historical data, and monthly data are those recommended. Usage rates intended as levels of usage of the subsystems by user profile. They can derive from the surveys or data from DMOs and have to be intended as daily. Finally, revenue needs to be intended as an indicator corresponding to the scenario created and because of considerations based on the daily expenditure of the profiles. The first section concerns tourism flows and have to be intended as daily. Naturally, having daily data will be the best solution, but is often a big issue. For the hotel tourist and ex-hotel tourist profiles, monthly overnight data are accurate enough, then necessarily to be divided for 30 or 31 days. Yearly overnight data are allowed by dividing them by the corresponding days, so 365, even if it might create flows. Day visitors can be estimated on a daily, monthly, or yearly basis with the same ratio, while recommending focusing on peak and/or low season. At this point, time periods must be coincident between the user profiles. For example, if we decide to consider June, July, and August, the data period, I would say, it will have to be the same for the three profiles. The second section, after pressing continue, presents several subsystem bars. Let's have a look to the first two, which regard the accommodation sector. Please remember that all numbers figuring in green can be modified, while those ones in red cannot. For these two first bars, the number on the right-hand column has to be modified with the total number of beds corresponding to the facilities indicated. For the hotel one, it may include small hotels, garden hotels, boutique hotel for example, while the extra hotel one comprehends Airbnb rentals, bed and breakfast, even campsites, second homes, apartments, etc. The other five subsystem bars follow the same structure, thus green numbers need to be modified. The first three highlighted columns regard the usage rate by profile, calculated and transformed into a percentage starting from the results of the survey or surveys. The last column on the right represents the capacities corresponding to each subsystem. The first one is about food and beverage. To set the usage rates, it is necessary to use a slider, moving it between a fixed range from 0 to 1. The slide shown below presents an example based on the study conducted for Venice. The capacity should indicate the total number of restaurants, bars, and pub seats, focusing only on places where it is possible to sit down to consume a meal. It has been evaluated the service or services that can be provided at lunchtime only. In the moment, it is not possible to provide a precise data, but, for example, a total number of food and beverage facilities, one may proceed by multiplying an average number of places by an average of 2 shifts, for example, for the lunchtime. The second subsystem regards mobility. The usage rates can be set between 0 to 1 for parking and 0 to 10 for public transportation. Again, an example has been provided as follows. This whole subsystem has been divided into two categories, One presents the number of parking places in the destination and in the main gateways of the city. The second category presents the capacity of the main public transportation lines in the destination. The evaluation can be based by considering how many people the main bus, tram, metro lines in the pilot area can transport. The first subsystem may cause issues in collecting the corresponding data. It regards the total amount of kilograms of waste that the system can process daily. Having experienced variances in the data provided, for the sake of the study, this subsystem has not been considered. Should there be such difficulties, usage rates and capacity have to be set as indicated in the slide hereafter. Otherwise, they can be set consistently to the data owned. The last one concerns attraction. The value of usage rates has a range from 0 to 1. Another example deriving from the study conducted for Venice is presented. The indicator of capacity shows the maximum number of people set by visitor limits or security reasons. If the subsystem has been considered as not affected by overcrowding or carry capacity problems, it is possible to replace that with a hotspot of flows, for example train stations or ports. At the bottom of the page there is an extra button, Additional Constraints, that allows to add up to 3 more options with the same ratio of the attraction. It can include, for example, other attractions, sites, or natural sites. Pressing Continue, the last section to be filled will be the following. It regards daily expenditure, whereby moving the slider on a €5 basis, the average daily expenditure for the corresponding profile has to be set. Data should be rounded up and can be extracted from the survey or service administered. At this point, by clicking on Compute, calculations and results are shown. They present the optimal number of tourists and visitors. Let's see how to interpret such numbers. The first column represents the maximum number of tourists or visitors calculated that would be eligible in the destination. This is purely a number calculated by the tool on tourism subsystem limits, usage rates, and daily expenditure, so it refers to an optimal scenario created. The second one references to the data used for the real tourism flows at the beginning. Subsequently, the third column presents a coefficient resulted from the tourism carry capacity calculation. The standard limit is set to 0.95. Based on this coefficient, a color will be assigned to user profiles as shown in the fourth column. Finally, the revenue that will be daily generated by all 3 profiles in the optimal scenario created through the data used can be found on the bottom. Scrolling down the page, once the total has been calculated, please find the correspondence between the resulting color dot here and the color scale on the left. From that list, it is possible to consult the more suitable measures for the combined colored result. This last slide shows some notes and clarifications about the methodology pursued to obtain an optimal number and the optimal sample requested for the surveys. I hope this explanation could have been helpful, while I encourage you to refer to the deliverables provided by the representatives of the project. Thank you very much for your attention and have a good job.